While folding the laundry, a message arrived. "Hey, sweetie, just a heads up. Christmas is going to be simple this year. Money's tight, so we won't be doing big gifts, just the essentials." I gazed at the message, my grip tightening on the fabric. It wasn't surprising, as my parents had always been sensible about Christmas, never going overboard. But this year, the message seemed different, final, like a decision had already been made without my input. Still, I forced a smile and responded, "Of course, no worries. The kids will understand," knowing well that my husband and I weren't exactly financially buoyant either. But we always made Christmas memorable for our twins, Mia and Lucas, saving throughout the year and carefully picking out thoughtful gifts. Even if they weren't luxurious, Christmas remained magical. Despite my disappointment, I resigned myself to the idea that Christmas was about family, not gifts. That belief held until 2 days after Christmas. It was a lazy afternoon, the kids playing happily with their new toys while my husband fixed a leaky faucet, and I was casually browsing social media. Suddenly, I stumbled upon my sister's post boasting "Best Christmas ever," accompanied by a carousel of images. The first photo was my parents' living room, transformed with a massive tree adorned with bright white lights, gold and red ornaments weighing down its branches, and an expanse of gifts in silver and gold wrapping paper scattered around. My nieces, my sister's daughters, were pictured amidst opulent gifts, designer sneakers, high-end electronics, and a brand new tablet. My heart dropped. We hadn't been invited. No mention from anyone about a family gathering. For us, Christmas had passed quietly, just my husband, the twins, and me, enjoying a simple home-cooked dinner, exchanging modest gifts, and watching holiday movies together. No grandparents, cousins, or grand celebration. Apparently, this year we weren't part of the family gathering. Scanning through the photos again, I hoped there was a mistake, perhaps old images reposted, but the timestamp clearly said otherwise. This happened that very Christmas. I checked my messages. Nothing from Mom or Dad, no invitation, no mention. Had they thought of Mia and Lucas at all while my nieces tore into gifts worth potentially thousands of dollars? My disappointment turned to nausea. Though I didn't want to jump to conclusions, deep down, I was aware of the harsh reality. They had deceived me, not only about the money or gifts but about our significance to them. I wasn't upset with my nieces, they were just children. Even my sister didn't anger me. I had long accepted her position as the favorite child. But my parents, who always insisted that Christmas wasn't about material things but about family, had intentionally excluded us from what should have been a family affair. Most painful was how they let my children believe Christmas had to be modest and simple, while my sister's kids enjoyed grandeur and excess. After staring at the screen filled with photos for what seemed like ages, I went straight to my contacts and blocked my parents' numbers. Not out of anger or spite, but because sometimes the ones who are supposed to love you the most harm you the deepest. This year, my gift to myself was peace. Blocking their numbers should have provided closure, but instead, it felt like an open wound. The days following Christmas blurred by as I went through daily motions, cooking, cleaning, playing with Mia and Lucas. Yet, inside, I felt hollow, the betrayal a heavy weight in my chest. My husband, David, noticed the change. He carefully asked, "You okay?" one night while we put the kids to bed. I hesitated, murmuring, "Yeah, just tired," before kissing Mia goodnight and switching off the light. Though he didn't press further, I saw the concern in his eyes, the furrow of his brows when he caught me drifting off in thought. How could I verbalize it? Admit that my own parents didn't care about me, that we weren't merely forgotten. We were discarded. I anticipated they might reach out, but nothing. The silence stretched on for days. I half expected my mom would at least try a last-minute excuse or explanation, but there was nothing. Then my sister's name appeared on my screen. I allowed the phone to ring once, twice, until it stopped. Then a text. I saw that. A message from my sister flashed on my screen. "You blocked Mom and Dad. What is wrong with you?" Not an apology, not an invitation to talk. Just blame. My hand gripped the phone tight, my heart pounding. What was wrong with me? David found me on our bed, staring at my phone. They didn't even bother to deny it, I whispered. He sat next to me and said, "They knew what they were doing, Daisy, and they didn't care that it hurt you." I exhaled deeply, trying to convince myself that maybe I misunderstood. Perhaps there was a reason. But David cut in, "Stop making excuses for them. They made a conscious decision."
I swallowed til stretning to spill.
He was right. They had chosen my sister and her kids over us, leading my children to think we couldn't afford a grand Christmas while they laughed around a tree full of gifts elsewhere. It was no accident. It was intentional. The next day, I summoned the courage to reply to my sister. "They claimed they couldn't afford gifts for us this year, yet managed a lavish celebration for yours. They had the money for a party, but not to invite us." Her response came quickly, dismissing my concerns as overreacting. Overreacting? My stomach flipped. This wasn't just about Christmas. It was about how they perceived me, an afterthought. For once, I stopped pretending otherwise. I stared at her message before typing my last reply. "I hope your daughters enjoyed their Christmas." Mine had small and simple, because that's what Mom and Dad said we could afford. Now I understand my place in this family, so please, don't reach out to me again. I hit send and blocked her too, not out of anger or desire for revenge, but because I was done fighting for scraps of affection, done pretending to be part of a family that didn't treat me as such. I placed my phone aside, breathed deeply, and felt lighter for the first time since Christmas. The pain of rejection lingered, but it was no longer a burden I held onto. My phone was quiet, no messages, no guilt-laden calls trying to smooth things over. Just silence. It should have been a relief, yet days later, I found myself reaching for my phone out of habit, hoping for a message that never came. I wished my mom would explain it as a misunderstanding. My dad would say they didn't mean it, but deep down, I knew they acted intentionally and felt no remorse. The gossip trickled in. Friends mentioned my sister's complaints about me. Others asked if my family was okay, noting my mother's upset demeanor. Upset? She excluded my children from Christmas, yet she was upset. I ignored the chatter until David returned home, tense, saying my dad had called.
"He's worried about you," he says.
"He finds your actions irrational for cutting off family." I scoffed. "So I'm irrational, not the ones who lied and excluded us." David shook his head, telling me he reminded my dad that I had enough of being treated insignificantly. And what was his response? "You don't cut off family, no matter what." Anger simmered inside. No matter what. Even if they lie or show favoritism or hurt you. David confirmed, yes, they expected me to accept whatever scraps while prioritizing my sister. I clenched my fists, realizing this wasn't just about Christmas, but a lifetime of being in second place. That evening, alone in our bedroom, I pulled out old photo albums. Each page revealed the same pattern, my sister always surrounded by love and attention, at the center, while I was at the periphery, present yet never prioritized, reflecting on past birthdays where her celebrations always seemed grander than mine, receiving brand new bikes while I inherited my sister's old one, and witnessing our parents beaming pride during her dance recital but barely acknowledging my achievements like making the honor roll. It all weighed heavily on me. Christmas was just another stark reminder of my standing, or lack thereof, in the family. I closed the album, letting out a shaky breath. For years, I had made excuses for them, convincing myself it wasn't deliberate, perhaps just a figment of my imagination. But it wasn't imagination, and I decided the pretense had to end. The following morning, I gathered Mia and Lucas at the kitchen table. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Lucas looked worried. I exhaled deeply. I need to discuss something important about family. Mia's eyes widened with concern. "Are we in trouble?"
Ismila gently. "No, yeah."
But there's something important I learned too late in life. They both straightened, paying close attention. Family isn't solely about shared blood. It's about those who are there for you and make you feel loved consistently, not just when it suits them. Lucas tilted his head. "Like you and Daddy?" "Exactly," I replied, squeezing his little hand tenderly. Mia bit her lip. "Is this about Grandma and Grandpa?" I hesitated, then nodded. They were young but not naive. They had noticed things even if not fully grasping them. Lucas poked at his cereal. "They didn't come for Christmas." Mia frowned, and they didn't give us anything. My throat tightened. They love you, I assured, knowing I'd never suggest otherwise to my children. But sometimes, people struggle to show love correctly, and if they continuously hurt you intentionally, you must decide whether they belong in your life. Lucas solemnly asked, like when someone at school is mean and won't stop? Yes, I affirmed, aching inside, just like that. Mia was silent, pondering. Then she finally inquired, "Are we still visiting them?" I looked between my children, feeling the weight of my decision. "No, darling, we're not." Mia's eyes welled up, not from missing them but from understanding, and to my surprise, she nodded. "Okay." Lucas seemed relieved. "Can we make pancakes now?" I chuckled through my emotions. "Yes, sweetheart, we can make pancakes." As they gleefully left their chairs, discussing toppings, I felt a shift within me. For the first time in ages, I was no longer attempting to mend something that was never mine to repair. I wasn't chasing after approval that was never meant to be given. I was breaking free of the cycle, and that was the most precious Christmas gift I could offer my children. 2 weeks had passed since I severed ties with my parents, experiencing 2 weeks of silence and peace. Then the letters started arriving. The first came in an envelope inscribed with my mother's handwriting. My stomach churned upon seeing it. I should have discarded it, yet curiosity, or maybe old habits, compelled me to open it. "Daisy, sweetheart," it began. I stopped, anger already bubbling. Sweetheart was how she began, after everything they'd done, choosing my sister over me and my children. Reluctantly, I continued reading. "I don't understand why you're doing this. We are family. Families have disagreements, but always reconcile. We never intended to hurt you. You're overreacting." That word again, overreacting. Clenching my jaw, I read on. "We assumed you understood finances have been tight. We couldn't afford a lavish Christmas for everyone. Your sister needed our help, too. Why punish us for that?" I let out a short laugh. Was that their justification, that they were forced to choose due to limited means? They afforded an extravagant celebration for my nieces, but left my children wanting. I had given them the benefit of doubt too many times. No more. Carefully folding the letter, I placed it in the trash. 3 days later, a text arrived from my aunt, my mother's elder sister. I hesitated before reading. "Hey, Daisy, I had a long talk with your mom. She's devastated, crying over this issue, bewildered by your severity. You know she loves you dearly, right?" I roll my eyes, classic guilt tactic. When they failed to pressure me into compliance, they resorted to shaming me into forgiveness. I didn't respond immediately, allowing the message's weight to sink in. My mom had been crying. Where were those tears when my children sat by a humble tree opening inexpensive gifts, believing their grandparents couldn't afford more? Where was that sadness when my sister's kids boasted about their luxury sneakers and brand new gadgets? Where was her heartbreak when the truth revealed itself? Through a post on social media, I discovered my own parents had celebrated Christmas without us. They weren't shedding tears for me, but because they had lost their grip on me. For the first time, I refused to be the daughter who suppressed her emotions just to maintain harmony. With a deep breath, I began typing my reply. "She's not hurt because she caused me pain. She's hurt because I stood up for myself, and if you can't comprehend that, stop acting as her courier." I pressed send, thinking it marked the end, but I was mistaken. The last attempt came via an old acquaintance of my mother's, someone I hadn't connected with in years, through a Facebook message. "Daisy, reaching out because your mom is shattered. She's not sure how things deteriorated so much. She requested I tell you she loves you and is heartbroken about the situation. I understand your pain, but can't you just talk to her? Life's too brief for such grudges." I glanced at the message, fingers hovering above the keys. They still missed the essence. This wasn't a grudge but a boundary, a choice to cease pursuing those clearly not prioritizing me. Their refusal to accept their actions stood glaringly, void of apologies or accountability, just manipulation rehashed. My reply was succinct. If she's heartbroken, it's only because she finally felt how I was treated. That evening, David found me on the couch, phone face down beside me. More messages? He guessed. I nodded. More guilt trips. You all right? He inquired, attentively sitting by my side. I pondered, surprisingly realizing yes. For once, I didn't crave parental concern or their approval, or cling to hope they'd reciprocate my affection. Done felt liberating. David's reassuring hand squeeze whispered true love, leaving me assured and serene. As 2 months slipped by, no word from my parents, sister, or their usual guilt-laden emissaries emerged. 2 months of tranquility, dinners echoing laughter with my husband and kids, and weekends crafting lasting memories devoid of familial obligation shadows. Initially strange, mourning transformed into relief. Just as detachment felt complete, a message from my Aunt Linda, my dad's younger sister, interrupted typicality. Hesitant, yet curious, knowing Linda never played into family theatrics but bore kindness, I opened her message. Hey Daisy, aware of your struggles with your parents. Just know I see you. If you and your kids fancy a meal at mine, doors always open. Her words pierced my heart with no manipulation or expectations, just genuine warmth. After reflection, my accepting reply initiated a new feeling, hope. The ensuing weekend, David and I gathered the kids and journeyed to Linda's abode. Though unlike my parents' mansion, it exuded warmth, resonating with home-cooked aromas and laughter traces. Linda's face beamed, greeting, "You're here," offering hot chocolate to our freezing kids, instantly cherished. As they cozied, Linda ushered me to the kitchen, whispering, "No need to discuss it, but I disagree with their actions." Moisture pricked my eyes. They neither admit wrong nor accept fault, Linda sighed, naturally, expecting all to conform without accountability. Swallowing hard, I expressed, "It's not just about me, it's affected my kids." Her gaze softened. "That's why protecting them from conditional love is paramount." Her affirming nod bolstered my spirit. "Why, then, does it ache?" "Because good people, like you, Daisy, expect better, though accepting they won't change may be your salvation." As I glanced around Linda's warm kitchen, welcomed by her with open arms, I came to a realization. Perhaps I hadn't truly lost family. I had just discovered those who genuinely deserved to be called that. The evening embodied everything I had once hoped for with my own parents. Linda's husband played board games with Mia and Lucas, their laughter filling the room as they invented their own rules. Conversations during dinner flowed naturally, offering comfort without the need to prove anything. For the first time in a long while, I felt accepted without needing to earn it. Linda saw me not as the backup daughter, the one receiving leftover attention, but as family, and treated me accordingly. As we drove home that evening, I saw my children peacefully asleep in the back seat and felt David squeeze my hand. "You okay?" he asked. I softly smiled. "Yeah, I think I am." Maybe family isn't tied by blood, but by those who show up, love you without conditions, and make space for you without making you plead. Spring arrived quickly, melting away winter's chill, bringing clarity along with it. No longer waking up awaiting a call from my parents or bracing for guilt-filled messages, I realized I didn't need their understanding to move on. I wasn't seeking closure from them. I had given it to myself. Months had passed since Christmas, when my mother managed to reach me through a letter, another one. David found it in the mailbox, holding it cautiously. "Do you want to read it?" he asked. I took a deep breath, looked at the familiar handwriting, and without second thoughts, discarded it. David raised an eyebrow. "That easy?" I smiled sincerely. "Yeah, it is." For years, I believed family was forever, that despite my parents' favoritism towards my sister and their treatment of me as an afterthought, I had to keep holding on because that's what family meant. But now I knew the truth. Family isn't defined by DNA, but by those who make you feel loved, safe, and seen. And my parents had shown, time and again, that they weren't those people. Easter weekend arrived, and for the first time, I felt no need to reach out to my parents. Instead, we spent the day at Linda's house. The kids were busy in the backyard hunting Easter eggs while Linda and I enjoyed coffee, watching them play. "This is nice," Linda remarked about having family around. I smiled. Yeah, it is. She paused, then said, I know it's different, Daisy. I know you probably still miss them in some ways. I pondered that. Did I miss them or the idea of them, the parents I wished they were instead of who they actually were? Taking a deep breath, the warm breeze lifted the weight from my chest. No, I replied honestly, and for the first time, I truly meant it. That night, I did something I hadn't since Christmas, flipping through old photos of my parents, my sister, the life I'd fought to preserve. One by one, I deleted them not out of spite but because I realized I didn't need them anymore. I was finished looking back, questioning my decisions, or giving love to those unwilling to reciprocate it. I put my phone down, exhaled deeply, and closed my eyes, finally letting go. The next morning, as I prepared the kids' lunches, Mia curiously asked, Mommy, will we ever see Grandma and Grandpa again? I hesitated, observing her innocent face, unaware of the question's gravity. I don't know, baby, I answered truthfully. Lucas inquisitively asked, Do you miss them? I reflected, then softly said, No, I miss what I thought we had, but I cherish what we have now even more. Mia nodded, seemingly understanding in the wise, simple way only children can. And with that, it was enough. Months turned into a year, and over that period, I built something better than the family I'd lost. I created a life surrounded by love, honesty, and respect. New traditions were formed with those who showed up for me, and most importantly, I ceased waiting for love from those who had already proven unwilling to give it. The best revenge wasn't anger or bitterness, it was happiness, and I had finally found it.